Thank you so much. Thanks, Vlad, for the nice introduction, and thank you all for coming today. I'll be talking about press freedom, about the way press freedom or its limitations affect our lives, your lives and my life, and how we could try and at least change the situation. Usually when I speak about media freedoms, I tend to say that this is a problem you don't know about. Well, this I think changed. As you know, at the beginning of this year, the editorial rooms of a French newspaper was attacked. And this, I think, showed how vulnerable media is. Well, I won't be talking about press freedom in the sense of Charlie Hebdo. I'll be talking about press freedom in the sense of Mr. Delian Peevski. For those of you who don't come from Bulgaria or don't follow the news, this gentleman is a member of Bulgarian parliament. He owns at least 6 Bulgarian newspapers, at least 4 radio stations, and also the biggest print advertiser in 2013. You would think that the biggest print advertiser would be a bank like our sponsors today, or maybe a telecommunications company, or I don't know, a huge company in Bulgaria, but it's not. It's a restaurant in Sofia that spent 1.2 million Bulgarian leva in advertising in 2013. Why? I don't know. Where did this money go? Of course, into those men's newspapers. How could a restaurant have such huge budget? That I don't know. What Mr. Peevski, a lot of guys like him who own Bulgarian media and also their affiliates do, is they use the power of their media to pursue their goals, maybe to eliminate their enemies, or simply just set the agenda of what's important in our society and what's not. Mr. Peevski's activities in media and the fact that he's not the only one who's doing it here in Bulgaria reflects into those figures. This is how Bulgaria performed in the Press Freedom Index in the last 13 years. The Press Freedom Index is done annually by an NGO in Paris called Reporters Without Borders. And we have to say that this index is not a perfect measurement, because how do you measure something like press freedom? You cannot feel it. So this ranking has a lot of limitations. It's subjective, but it has shown that it's a proven instrument of what's going on in world media. So as you can see, Bulgaria used to be quite highly positioned among the 180 countries that are measured each year. But in the last few years, Bulgaria kept on falling and falling, so you see a steady downward trend of Bulgaria's rank in those index. As you could imagine, the first ranks in the index, the Scandinavian countries, the Western European countries are there, and at the bottom, you see all the countries with dictatorships. Well, you could ask the question, how does that rank of Bulgaria affect me, affect you? You don't believe in press, you don't watch mainstream TV maybe, and for some of you here in the audience, well, you're not Bulgarian citizens, so why should you care? Well, to start from the last question, the problems of press freedom are not only here in Bulgaria. Actually, in the whole region, in the whole Balkans and also in Southeastern Europe, you only have 2 countries with free media based on the ranking. It's Romania and Slovenia. All the other countries are among the places of Bulgaria. Well, we're actually the worst country in the EU, but okay. And even though you might be aware of the situation in media, that it's corrupt, that strange people own it, a lot of people don't. So 37% of Bulgaria's population above 50 trust the press completely. This is statistics from Eurostat from 2012. So we have to cross this percentage with the next one. So 45% of Bulgaria's voters in the 2014 elections are above 46. So you can get the whole picture. Basically, your future is decided by people who do trust the media. And in general, Bulgarian media are not trustworthy. I'd like to go back in time to explain how this happened. Actually, for for some years, Bulgaria started to build quite a steady media system. The economics boomed, so the advertising in print in Bulgarian media grew. This is actually million, not just normal Bulgarian level. So in 2009, we reached quite a good amount of money. And then with the crisis, all changed. Before that, we had actually media companies that were doing real journalism. We still have, but not that much. We had good standards in journalism as well. But when the crisis came, this all changed. And as you can see, the budgets shrank. So print media had to find other ways to survive. So these shady businessmen, these shady politicians, they were trying to have influence in media before that. They actually had a little bit, but then at that time, just media became open for them, and they just entered the editorial rooms. I'll draw a quick map of who's in charge of the Bulgarian editorial rooms and who's not. You'll see a lot of circles in my presentation. This is what I call the circles of influence. So my observations, they go back to large research I did 2 years back when I traveled the whole country and met a lot of journalists from local media. I'm going to quote them anonymously in the slides because you can imagine that if I quote them with their real names, they might lose their jobs. But yeah, why did I do this? And why did I go to small Bulgarian cities to interview journalists and not go like to the big medias? I think small cities are like the microcosm of what's happening in Bulgarian media. And it's much easier to get in touch with those journalists, and they know everything. In a small city, a journalist, a good journalist, knows about all the connections between politicians, businessmen. So I visited them, I spoke with them, and I actually think that what I saw in local Bulgarian press, you could transform it into Bulgarian TV, Bulgarian national press, or Bulgarian radio. So the first circle, we have the publishers, as Mr. Pevsky. The publisher in Bulgaria is mostly a person with some questionable morals. He's often a politician, a wannabe politician, a former politician, a businessman. But regardless of his background, he normally has just one goal. His own opinions to become legit with his paper. Furthermore, you often don't know who the real owner of Bulgarian press is. There is this law from 2009 that makes Bulgarian papers and Bulgarian publications once a year to publish their real owner. Only half of the publications do that. And even though there is a fine for not doing it, no paper has been fined since. These are 6 years. So we go further, and we go to the local business. This is, I should say, not a problem only here in Bulgaria, not a problem even here in the region, because you know, the borders between advertising and editorial content, they're getting loosened in the last years, also in Western European media, also in American media. But the problem in Bulgaria and in countries that have problems with press freedom is that all combines. It's a huge mix-up of people, businessmen, politicians, who sit on one table and just share a pizza. So it's just this mix-up of the system that is the real problem. We continue with the journalists themselves. We have a term, we media experts have a term, auto-censorship. It's a very easy concept. The journalist is being pressured by himself. This might sound strange or impossible, but that's also just a way for a journalist to keep his job. So auto-censorship is very common in Bulgarian newsrooms, and this has a long tradition because you could imagine that back in the day during communism times, this was just normal. The Communist Party didn't have to come to you and tell you what to write and what not, you just knew it. Then we go to the politics. Bulgarian politicians, they have a very strong instrument of influencing media, and this is the so-called municipal or ministry advertising. So municipals and ministries, they have huge budgets for advertising, They can advertise some tenders or some new EU programs. So these are huge budgets that could actually influence the budget of a media and its existence. So with money from such contracts, they could be crucial for a media, especially in a smaller town. So such coverage contracts, they make media dependent on the local politics. And in general, politics, they see media as an instrument to gain or remain in power. So, yeah, when we look at these big pictures, we see a lot of systems colliding, business, politics, even the media themselves, and they just harm the press freedom. When I was preparing my speech, I was thinking whether I'm painting the situation too black. Because of course, here in Bulgaria and everywhere in the region, we have independent journalists. We have free media. But okay, when you're at place 106 out of 180 countries in the world, I think it's not a very bright picture. So yeah, this is also a quote from an anonymous editor-in-chief that I met 2 years back. Who suffers? We saw small circles of small groups, and one big group, actually the biggest, suffers. And these are the readers. A very direct consequence of the situation in Bulgaria's media is there is a lack of objective and critical coverage of current events. And this is bad for the whole society, because in order to develop a working society, we need free independent media that show the citizens what's wrong in the different systems here in the circles. It's not the case only in Bulgaria. Everywhere when you have problems with media freedom, most media outlets, they just tend to show a problem just from one side. So in short, my first message today is that Bulgarian media, they rob you of the possibility to have a well-grounded opinion, and your future and my future are harmed by that. Because there are so many different groups of people that own media, you have to read a lot of information, a lot of different sources to get the whole picture of an event and try to build an opinion of yourself. This option could be quite relevant for you guys here in the audience. I even have friends, they don't read Bulgarian media. But 55% of Bulgaria's population doesn't use the internet on a daily basis, so that's not an option for them. Even a bigger portion of our population, 61%, does not speak foreign languages, so they couldn't read foreign media. They couldn't get informed of what's going on in the country from abroad. So as I said in the beginning, at the end of the day, those people, just like you and me, they vote. They don't use the internet, they don't speak foreign languages, and they trust the media. How could we change that? And this is my second message for today. I think that the young people in Bulgaria, just like you, and also people from the countries in the region, countries with problems in press freedom, they could change the situation. How? So against the Peevski model, I've made a we model, starting with being critical. I think most of you would complain, let's say when their sneakers fell out after one night of wearing. They would go to the web page of a producer, they would go to their Facebook page, they would complain. Well, you could do the same thing with media as well. You can write a comment on the Facebook page of a media outlet and just tell them that an article or a TV piece was not objective. We have to be proactive. We have to teach our parents, our grandparents, some basic things about media. Not only that you have to think twice about what is true and what is not, but you have to inform them who's the owner of the media they use so that they know what their agenda is. We can support the media. We can buy them. Not that many people buy media nowadays. Not that many subscribe media. We can do that. We can give feedback. This always helps. And we can be entrepreneurial, because I'm here at TEDxAUBG. TEDxAUBG has a great tradition of student media. We could develop new media. You could develop new media that are independent and free. So against the Pevsky model, what we could do, what we have at least 100,000 voices. We have at least 400 new media to be founded. We could advertise for more opinions, and we could build platforms for grassroots media development, or at least that's what I'm doing. But when I'm ready, I'm going to talk to you maybe again about that project that I'm working on. And by showing my magical skills at PowerPoint, I could really show that the Pevsky model could disappear. Thank you so much.